Welcome again to The Old Principle, an English instructional program. And I'm sure that you will enjoy the stories, have been enjoying the stories. Some of them are a little bit more serious. Some of them are kind of funny. I think today's is kind of interesting. So we are looking at number 130, wet pants. Of course, we all know what wet is. Wet is shirt, and pants is 裤子. But what does it mean to have wet pants? 尿是尿尿，尿湿的裤子. So with that, we need a storyteller. And the storyteller has just come on stage. And here we are.
9-year-old Bobby was sitting at his desk when all of a sudden he realized that there was a puddle between his feet and the front of his pants was wet. Oh, he thought that his heart was going to stop. He closed his eyes and sighed. He couldn't understand how this could have happened. It had never happened before, and he knew that as soon as the boys found out, he'd never hear the end of it. And when the girls found out, they'd never speak to him again, maybe as long as he lived. Bobby saw the teacher coming down the aisle with a look in her eyes that said he'd been discovered. As the teacher was walking toward him, a classmate named Susie was carrying a goldfish bowl that was filled with water. Susie tripped in front of the teacher and dumped the bowl of water in Bobby's lap. Bobby pretended to be angry, but all the while he was saying to himself, this is good. This is good. Now, all of a sudden, instead of being the object of ridicule, Bobby was the object of sympathy. The teacher quickly rushed him downstairs and gave him gym shorts to put on while his pants dried out. All the other children were on their hands and knees cleaning up around his desk. The sympathy was wonderful, but as life would have it, the ridicule that should have been his had been transferred to Susie. She tried to help clean up, but they elbowed her out and yelled at her. "Get out of here, Susie, you klutz! You've done enough already." At the end of the day, as all the children were waiting for the bus, Bobby walked over to Susie and whispered, "You did that on purpose, didn't you?" Susie nodded and whispered back, "I wet my pants once, too."
That's a cute story.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for reading this. We are at number 130, wet pants. So here we go. 9-year-old Bobby was sitting at his desk. Now, obviously, we're talking about a school situation. So this is 书桌, the desk that you study at, going on. When all of a sudden, he realized there was a puddle. Oh no, a puddle between his feet and the front of his pants was wet. Oh my, that is bad news. 突然间, all of a sudden. 突然间, all of a sudden. He realized that there was a puddle. Okay, A puddle between his feet. 在他的脚有一滩水。Okay, 一滩水。A puddle between his feet and the front of his pants. 他的裤子的前面。The front of his pants was 湿了。Okay, was wet. He thought in his heart he thought his heart was going to stop. 他认为他感到他的心脏会停下来。Okay? No, in other words, he was very, very scared. He closed his eyes and sighed. He closed his eyes, 叹气, sighed. Does that sound like sighing? 叹气. Okay, so it's like, now, what do I do next, going on? He couldn't imagine how this could have happened. 根本就没想到这么能够这样发生事情。He didn't know why or how something like this would happen going on. It had never happened before. Never before. It had never, ever happened before. 从来没有发生过. Of course, this would be very embarrassing. He knew that as soon as the boys found out, he'd never hear the end of it. 他也知道 as soon as the boys, 那些男同学一发现的话 found out, he'd never hear the end of it. Now, this is, how can you say this? This is it's a very special way of saying something in English, but you don't understand it on the surface. 表面上很不容易理解, okay? And it says he'd never hear the end of it. Simply means 他会变成这个微笑柄. In other words, people are going to laugh at him. They're going to laugh at him forever and ever and ever and ever. Oh, of course, that's the way he's thinking. Never hear the end. No end. 不完不美. I mean, obviously, people would laugh at him going on. And when the girls found out, 那这女同学她们发现的时候 they'd never speak to him again. 他们绝对不会再跟他说话. Now, this is the way a little boy's thinking is. As long as he lived. 直到这个有生之年啊. So in other words, as long as he was living, the girls would never, ever, they just wouldn't speak to him. See, this is the way his thinking is in his mind. Going on, Bobby saw the teacher coming down the aisle. Okay, Bobby saw the teacher, okay, and the teacher was coming down the aisle. 他 走那个过道。Sometimes we say 走廊, but 过道. So the teacher is coming down the aisle. And it's kind of like with a look in her eyes, 看她的眼睛, a look in her eyes that said, I've been discovered. So this look in her eyes. As the teacher was walking toward him, okay, so the teacher is walking. Now, obviously, this happens very fast, right? This is not like you're walking a half a mile or a long, long ways away. This is happening very fast. The teacher was walking toward him. A classmate, 同班同学 named Susie, 是女同学, okay, was carrying a goldfish bowl. Was carrying, 她自己拿着, what is a goldfish bowl? 金鱼缸 goldfish bowl that was filled with water. Was there any goldfish in there? I don't know. It doesn't say anything about the goldfish. But anyway, it was a goldfish bowl, 金鱼缸, and it was filled with water. 已经倒满了水. Going on. Susie tripped. Okay, what happens when you trip? Okay, 跌倒. 脚一滑. Tripped. To trip means to fall over. Something, 有一个绊脚石 or something on the ground there, and it's like, okay, boom, and then you fall over. Teacher, in front of the teacher, right in front of the teacher, okay, 在老师的面前，他就跌倒了 and dumped, 把这个水倒在 what? Bobby's lap. You know what a lap is? I would say, I don't know how to say it, 倒在他的膝盖上. But anyway, a lap, knees are the lap. This is the lap. Okay? This is my lap. If I'm sitting there, that's my lap. 大腿, maybe you could say. Okay? Or 腿上. Okay? Bobby, what? Pretended, okay, pretended, 假装 to be angry, 生气 pretended. So, but all the while, 当时虽然他是这个假装生气，但在他的心里，他对自己说 all the while, even while he was angry, he was saying to himself, this is good. This is good. This is very good. Okay? Going on. Now, all of a sudden, 突然间, instead of being the object of ridicule, object 就是对象，戏弄的对象。Okay? Bobby was the object of sympathy. 改为 object 对象，同情的对象。So, 他不在 let's go back there. I'm not quite done there. Let's all of a sudden, instead of being the object of ridicule, 就改为 object of 同情 ridicule 同情 opposites 戏弄还有同情 Go ahead. The teacher quickly rushed downstairs. Okay, so the teacher quickly rushed. That means 急忙的 means 快快的了 okay, downstairs. So this must be upstairs, so 在下楼 and gave him some gym shorts. What are gym shorts? Gym is 运动场 and shorts is 短裤. We say 运动短裤. 运动短裤. Okay, to put on 穿先穿的这个运动短裤好让他的 pants dried out 当他的裤子渐渐的就干了 All the other children were on their hands and knees. 其他的同学孩子们 were on their hands and knees. 爬在地上 Say, in my imagination, 这个是我的想象力 The story doesn't say it, but I can imagine some of the boys chasing goldfish. I can, there's a duck, and he's going boop, 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 like this. So I can imagine. The other children were on their hands and knees, 爬在地上 cleaning up, 清理整理 around his 在他的书桌旁边呢 going on. The sympathy was wonderful. 人家的同情是非常非常好 But as life would have it, 人生就是这样 人生 as life would have it, 人生是这样 The ridicule that should have been his, 他应该得的人家的戏弄 Okay, that should have been his 就转移到 Susie. Okay, the sympathy was wonderful, but as life would have it, the ridicule that should have been his was transferred to 转移到 Susie. Going on. She tried to help clean up. Of course, she tried to help cleaning everything up, but they elbowed her out. Elbowed her out, 用她的手臂把她推开 to elbow out. This means to elbow out. To elbow out. Okay, so they elbowed her out and yelled at her. 这个向她叫 Get out of here, Susie. 这个离开吧 Susie. You klutz. Now, I don't remember as a child. We should ask Mrs. Ash whether she remembers when was the first time you remember hearing the word klutz, but it wasn't when we were young. We did not use this term when we were young. We just didn't do it. But nowadays, we do use this term klutz, meaning 笨蛋. 你笨蛋. Okay? Okay, klutz. You've done enough already. 你搞得已经够坏. Okay, you've done 你已经做了足够 is what 表面上就是这么 You've already done enough already. But in this case, probably 你搞的不是那么已经太多了，已经太多了。Going on. At the end of the day, all the children were waiting for the bus. At the end of the day, 这个 you know, it's time to 下班不下班下学 so it's usually in America class is usually over at 3:30. Class is over at 3:30, sometimes 3, but 3:30. So when class is finished, all the children who live a long, long ways away, they wait outside for the bus. 在外面等这个巴士 school bus 学校的巴士 Bobby walked over to Susie. Okay, Bobby walked over to Susie and whispered. Okay, 说了一些悄悄的话，说了一些悄悄的话。He whispered to her, and here's what he was saying. You did that on purpose, didn't you? 你是故意的，是不是？你今天所做的了，是故意的，是不是？ And Susie nodded. What does it mean to nod? What does it mean to 点点头? 点点头. Okay, Susie nodded and whispered. 又说那些悄悄的话. I wet my pants once too. 我也尿湿过我的裤子，我也尿湿我的裤子。Well, so there you have it. A life in school times. Now, I'm a high school principal. I'm a high school. I'm not a grade school. 我不是小学的校长，我是一个中学校长。So we face different problems with high school kids. And little kids, they face problems. More surprises, maybe more surprises in elementary school because, I don't know, children don't express themselves. Maybe Mrs. Ash, you could join us and we'll philosophize here. Maybe it's embarrassing, but I'm going to ask you, did you ever wet your pants?
No.
No. Okay. Actually, I don't recall wetting pants. Of course, when we were little children, when we were little children, but I mean, we're talking about a nine-year-old.
Yes.
A 9-year-old. I remember, though, when I was going to high school, I remember in the dormitory, one of the students, even though he was already a teenager, already maybe 16, 17, 18 years old, he still had trouble wetting his bed. 那这个尿湿他的床啊。
Yes.
Now, that is a very special problem.
Yes.
That 这个心理学上 is psychological, 还是有一个问题。So I do know about that. I mean, he was embarrassing for him.
Of course.
And so on. So, but now, what do you think of Susie? Do you think that the teacher knew this?
I don't know, but Susie thought in her mind, ooh, I've had that experience and it's not fun. So maybe it was her idea of
Okay.
helping the situation.
Okay,
with
so
the water.
maybe Susie saw it and she did it on purpose. Now, that's interesting that she should see it that way, because I saw here, Bobby saw the teacher coming down the aisle, 走过来, and what happened? The look in her eyes, 看到她的眼睛, the look in her eyes, 看到她的眼睛, like, oh no, I have been discovered, 已经透露出来.
Yes.
So whoever the case is, it was a happy ending to a
Yes.
bad situation.
A real relief.
Yeah. I don't recall as a student ever having even a similar thing like this.
My sister did.
Oh, your sister did.
She wet the bed.
She wet the bed, and of course, but it takes a while, and then you overcome this.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's embarrassing, and you don't ever tell anybody, especially your peers. 你同年的这个 or 这个同班的 or even your friends, you don't say anything.
Yes.
It's too embarrassing,
That's
isn't
true.
it?
Yeah.
太不好意思，没有面子，真的是没有面子。Okay, let's see here. We have an email address. So you can write an email to the old principal, 老校长, okay? The old principal at gmail.com. Okay? The old principal at gmail.com. 我们也有一个网站，这个网站你自己可以看我们的节目也可以下载。所以有 www.theoldprinciple.org www.theoldprinciple.org. With that, we'll say goodbye. Sure hope you enjoyed today's lesson. There will be another interesting one next time. See you then.
Bye.